Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
Hi, I'm Ben Grayson, Ben Grayson Online, and here we have the Islanders of Motunui. So what this build is, it captures the life of Bionicle in its early days. Taking a look at some of the Matoran on what is largely a primitive island. There's a variety of big creatures you'll see around in each of the 6 biomes that are smeared into one build. Given an overview, it's about 20 inches deep by 8 inches long, about 4.5-ish feet at its tallest. Not quite sure on that, but some tall leaves up there. So, take it through, we can kind of start off with some of the basic story in Bionicle. Originally in the lore, there is what's known as the Great Spirit Motunui, kind of named after the island, and these characters worship this kind of god deity. And on the island, there are 6 biomes, which I tried to capture here. You can kind of see around that totem, there's some of these 6 poles, 6 kind of ornaments, crystals that represent each of them. You've got kind of the jungle biome over here, kind of the tree people, some of the singers, more musical, whimsical type folk. Going down below that lower left-hand corner, we've got some of the miners. These are those in Anukoro, the actual miners, underground workers picking up crystals, harvesting various ores they need to. Just to the right of that, there are those of Takoro, kind of representing some of the lava falls. And back in there, you can see a guy kind of harvesting lava, put it into a press, another guy picking up with some claws, turning that into metal. The metal in the world they refer to as protodermis, so this could be kind of like a protodermis falls in there. Beneath this, actually, we take a step back and go to the larger story, where Motunui, the Great Spirit totem you see, all the Matoran villagers are on a quest to awaken the Great Spirit. And you hear that kind of throughout the lore, but don't really see that until the end of the stories or the themes run, 2010, 2011-ish. The Motunui has an evil brother known as Makuta, and that's that kind of dark, deep, shadowy figure you see. And Bailey's portrayed as a smaller character in some of the early renditions of the film, slowly grows power on that kind of quest to become the all-controlling entity of the world. Just behind that, we've got a kind of mountain, rocky arch area with some of the Komatoran walking up there. These guys are icy, more intellectuals, kind of like the brains of the island up there. Not quite archivists, but enjoy astrology with the kind of astronomy tower you see there. There's a fun little feature. Now some of the gears are clicking after running for so long. Not quite sure what's going on there, but got some sound effects too, which is interesting.
They're heading up there to fix it.
Yeah, they're working on it. They're like, okay, this is really annoying. What the heck happens? But that mechanism slowly rotates around, as well as oscillating off of the same motor, so you get that kind of gradual sway back and forth. Below that to the far right here, we've got Gakor. This is kind of the island lily pad, kind of the island folks. It's essentially various huts, bridges across a series of lily pads flowing the ocean with various deep, dark creatures under there. All sorts of fun coral bits and bobs. They're kind of the fishers, swimmers of the world. Taking this a bit back, this is a little bit of a reference to Pokoro, the last of it. These are your stone workers, stone carver. They kind of created the various game Coley. So taking bits of the Bionicle lore that I remember growing up as a child, but really something I haven't touched in 10 plus years.
Yeah. And then what is in the back corner here?
Yeah, so heading back to our back left corner, below the head statue, you've got a little elevator shaft. This is take some of the miners down from the ground level, under the mines below, and it's using some of the old EV1 mine storms where it's on a timer, go down and sit there for 20 seconds, raise back up, and I'll just make sure the chord is, or the length number of rotations comes up at the same thing, so it kind of gets that same elevation on there. It's been a little finicky, but works enough.
And we've got a classic spaceman hanging out by the campfire here.
Yep, that we sure do. I haven't seen that guy before, but I guess there's a classic spaceman now. I don't know if he's not supposed to be there, but he's there.
There's a little crossover maybe happening, but then behind him, what is this large kind of sculpture with the flying aircraft?
Yeah, so behind him there, it's one of the kind of Bionicle heads, and you'll see like on the tiki torches, that's the actual Bionicle element it's based off of. You want to use that as kind of torches, statues, these kind of carvings around in primitive type ages you see, or early civilizations. But then, similar to Easter Island, where there's these massive heads kind of carved, I used that element as reference and then looked at how I can upscale that, starting at the mouth with those 4 kind of that negative cross shape, creating those shapes and the geometry of the kind of fins, jaws you see going around, up into the floating cheekbones, under the nose, and then those kind of round eyes. where it's just capped off with that kind of simple head to round it over, capture what's going on in the actual system element, the Bionicle element from early 2000s. Above that, you've got what's called a gecko bird. And so a variety of people or Matoran in the universe would ride these huge things. I think that's Kongu up there, who's kind of an adventurer. I say all this tentatively. I'm not too deep into Bionicle lore, kind of try to get back into it specifically for this build. But enjoying the creatures, Matoran riding around. So he's on that guy, flying him around for all sorts of various tasks, transportation.
And as we come to the top of the tree here, what else do you have included up in this section?
Yeah, working up to the top of the tree, there you've got the big old chameleon in the base or in the landscape. There's all sorts of rahi looking around, and this guy's hanging out, kind of blended with the dark green to the dark green leaves, and he's hunting a couple flies up there. Big old dragonflies shooting around, kind of pesky creatures. Just opposite of that, you've got a hut hanging there. This uses the 6x5 leaf element, which is brick bent around, similar to what Lego Master Moto has done from Season 2, but using some of the tri-leaf elements to capture that. So the whole structure of that only uses those two system elements, actually, and creates a rather bouncy, strong sphere, with just those cabling up above hanging it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic technique there. I love that. And then how about the base in this section of the tree?
Oh, thank you. That uses more of the leaf elements, and similar to the lily pad, which is what had come first, kind of spiral these out. I think it radiates off of the center point 7 directions, only because that was what worked, and then how can you just kind of jam these leaf pieces together, attach them with 1x2 plates. And it's a couple layers thick, which helps it span. And the real world equivalent of this would be like a stress skin panel in kind of architecture engineering worlds, but that gives you this platform where it's a long layer of spanning members, various blocking, spanning members, blocking, and you can repeat that a couple of times. But that's what helps it to span out from the kind of center core of the tree. A couple supports bringing it out underneath there, you'll see. But that's what helps it give a nice rigid surface coming out similar to the lily pad, which is done on a much larger scale than this one here.
Yeah. And you've got a few different precarious looking sections with these branches sticking out, and then also just the rock work here as well. So as you build those types of kind of natural formations, what are the elements you're using to make sure this whole thing isn't collapsing on itself?
Yeah, that was definitely big hope and a little bit of a prayer on moments in this. Both have a kind of a Technic core going in different ways. The tree has a series of Technic modules. I say modules because the same system repeated throughout it, where you've got one section kind of straight, and then splits off. In that side of module, there's a 4x4 round brick with the Technic pinholes on either side, the cross axle through that. And to get the 8 sides of the tree, that kind of stagger system plates, tiles around it, they had to offset them 45 degrees, but then Technic beams over side of that to kind of cloud that, and that's what gives the points of connection for the system. That then meets into it, so I get an elbow, and you kind of extend out some of those beams and attach it into the other, and slowly work that way up. And then, so you got higher, obviously the branches get a lot more spindly. This is where that kind of prayer part in the build process really comes into play. There's some dainty axles in there that I was really hoping would just kind of stay put, and thankfully they have. So that's where you get kind of narrowing down the branches, expanding out, where at the ends it's capped with Pteranodon wings. They're all the left Pteranodon wing used from the botanical sets. And I lucked out finding a Bricklink lot of these where it was some seller in Poland had 99 or 100 of these for only $6 US. So believe it or not, after waiting a couple weeks for that thing to sit in customs, got a whole sandbag size of those, which it was an element I thought would be fun since doing the large scale of the Matoran builds, having that bigger leaf element as a kind of palm around would be nice.
Yeah. And another thing that really stands out here is these cave structures underneath here. And you've got obviously kind of different colors with the gray and this mix of lava, but what are some of the design elements you use in there? Because obviously that has to be strong enough to hold up what's above it, but also look nice as well.
Yeah. So in this, the base is all kind of system, just stacks essentially. The lava cave specifically, you pan up and look at that ceiling in there, you can really start to see it's all brick pointing down. So from about this kind of section, kind of these top few layers in there, all the studs on that are pointing down. Then you take that whole panel, flip it over, and that plugs in to match the walls. So you get this kind of nice going up with the walls, slender into the roof, and follow that kind of texturing of various slopes, bows, curves on their side, all that kind of stuff. And having those kind of smooth surfaces, that's what hopes to reflect some of that lava glow. Since it's all uplit, kind of pointing in, get off the Matoran's face in there, but then up into the actual roof as well, kind of refract that light around. It's done quite similar to the cave to the left of it, which is more mine shaft. And this takes a different approach in lighting, which primarily the build uses kind of point lighting. So in here you've got all these sorts of crystals plugged into the wall, single LED running off of those. But following that kind of same approach where the cave ceiling is also snotted, studs going down. Much more tedious, real annoying part of the build. Did not look forward to doing that. But it keeps it kind of that smooth kind of worn rock look wrapping around in there.
And how long is this build, and do you know how many pieces are in the whole thing?
Pieces, I have not a clue. I've always been horrible at that kind of guessing game, just never even close. So I won't give that a shot. The build itself is just over 8 inches long by 20 inches some deep. The tallest point's definitely the tree up there, which surpassed that kind of astrology moment off to its right.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic work. So it's great to see Bionicle build tackled like this with kind of all these different worlds here. It looks really nice, and I love the way you've done lighting and just kind of the different types of natural structures as well. So thank you so much for taking us through everything.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.